In this video, I'll be going over how I built the seating slash pull-out double bed in my Volkswagen camper van. I actually built the seating in 3 separate pieces, as I wanted, as well as being a seating and a bed, I wanted it to perform other functions as well. One part was to house the leisure battery. The huge rear part was to be storage for all my seating and windbreaks and all that stuff to go in the back, and the other part was to store the bedding in. The first thing I did was to start building the frames of each individual section. This large rear piece, this was going to have a piece of plywood put on top, so the storage part of it would be accessed from the back of the van when you open the tailgate. Then I made the other section of the seat, and this one here would be the part that houses the leisure battery. So this is going to have a piece of ply put on top as well, but the ply will have hinges on the back, so I'm able to open and access the leisure battery when I need to. Then I run the power wires from the TV and the ceiling lighting through the rear box round to where the leisure battery would be held. Then I built the frame for the other section of the seat. This piece here will actually become the slide out part that turns it into a bed, also doubles as storage for the bedding. What I did here was I built a single square frame, attached slats to it. I also attached slats to the top of the main box frame part. What that does is when you slide the frame out, it meets up with the other side of the seating, pulling the slats all the way across, and what it does is it basically turns it into a double bed. The reason there's not many slats on it at the moment is because I actually ran out of wood when I was building that, so I just chucked a few slats on to make it work. But there's a lot more slats on it now and it works a lot better, but as you can see from the pictures, it works quite well. And as I said earlier, I put a piece of plywood on top of the leisure battery housing part, put some hinges on the back, job's a good one. And then was the fun part. I just started getting stuck in and put in the tongue and groove, the same tongue and groove I've used in the other parts of the van. I started slapping it all the way around and making it look pretty. Also tongue and groove the slide out front part of the bed. Then I had to make the door for the front part of the frame. This was so I'm able to get my bedding in and out when I want to. If you watched my other video on how I turned the antique cabinet into the camper interior, you would have seen that I actually cut the end of the cabinet off, which meant I had a spare door. So I actually wanted to use the door from the same cabinet to incorporate into this. Then it was just a case of getting the browning wax out and staining it the same colour as the rest of the interior. I also added this little leather belt buckle style catch to stop the bed sliding out while I was driving. Actually, something I forgot to add earlier in the video was I also put in some USB ports and some switches to control the lights in the van.
We have power, leisure battery in, and lights. Happy days.
Then it was time to do all the measurements for all the pieces of foam I would need to start doing the upholstery. I kind of cheated on this bit. On previous builds, what I've done with upholstery is I've bought sheets of foam and then cut it to size myself. But this time I thought to myself, you know what, I'm going to go online, buy some really nice foam this time. And I actually had it cut to the sizes I wanted pre-cut. The side bolsters either side, I knew I was going to have to cut them to the shape I wanted them. But most of it I literally had cut to size and it came perfect. What I did then was I decided to put it in the van. I wanted to make sure it all fit into place where it had to be. I wanted to try it all on for size. On my van, my plan was the rear piece of foam right at the very back of the van against the tailgate. What happens is when I slide the bed out, that piece of foam then slides onto the bed piece that pulls out and creates a double bed. The problem is with measurements and sizes, it was a bit of a ball ache, really, if I'm honest, because when I took the piece out the back for it to be the perfect size against the tailgate, when I put it on the bed, you had about half a foot of overhang. But I thought to myself, you know what, I'm just going to live with that. For it to have the look I want, I don't mind a little bit of overhang in the bed when I'm sleeping, so it doesn't really bother me that much. Then it was a case of doing the fabric onto the foam. What I did was I laid the fabric down on the table face down with the pattern face down. I laid the foam on top. Because my pattern on my fabric has squares in it, what I had to do was make sure that one of the lines was lined up perfectly with the edge of the foam. I then put a piece of this chipboard stuff. That really, it's like, I think it's like 5mm thick chipboard stuff that I bought from B&Q. I laid that on the back. Obviously, I'd cut it to size. I made it slightly smaller than the actual foam size. I then started stretching the fabric over to the back and stapling it along the edge. I did that all the way around a few times until I got this result here. I did the main rear large piece first because what I wanted to then do was I wanted to make sure all the squares and patterns lined up all the way across the various cushions that are not part of each other, if that makes sense. So what I had to do was lay it down, mark the lines, and I also had to mark the orientation of the pattern of the squares so I could get the rest of it the same. Once I'd done that on the foam, then when I took the foam back indoors to do the fabric on it, I could then know which direction the pattern had to be in and how to line up the lines. So when I took it out to the van and put the pieces in, it would all line up perfectly. I then put the pieces in to make sure all the lines lined up perfectly, and they did, as you can see in the pictures. Then it was a case of taking the side upholstery bits that are left here in the pictures to do. What I wanted to do is have them come off the top of the back and then kind of run down to the same height as the top of the worktop on the dresser thing there on the left. And on the right hand side, I was just going to angle it down into a bit of a triangle shape just to make it look a bit nicer. And there we have it. That was the seating area / storage area, all finished. The next thing I wanted to do was, because the lights in the ceiling are a bit bright at night time, I wanted to add a bit of a downlighter. So what I've done was I added some lighting like this.
I've just added an addition to the van because at night time, when you're in it at night, obviously, because these lights are so bright, there's no like downlighters when you're in the van chilling at night when you're going to bed. So I thought I would add something. So what I've done is I've hid LED lights all the way around inside the rubber seam of the window, so you can't actually see the strip at all. It's like completely hidden. But when I flick this switch, boom, check that out for mood lighting. Love it.
And here is a better picture of it, what it looks like when it's actually dark outside. Look how cool that looks at night time. Loving it. Well, there we have it. That's how I did the seating part of the interior of my van. Hope you enjoyed this video, and keep a watch out for the next one. Cheers.